New York City wasn't built overnight. It grew slowly, stubbornly, and sometimes explosively from a patch of wilderness into one of the greatest cities the world has ever known. This is the story of how it happened, how a small village became a booming metropolis, a beacon for dreamers and builders alike. Let's go back to where it all began, the year 1609. In 1609, a ship named the Half Moon sailed into the mouth of a wide bay. Aboard was Henry Hudson, an Englishman sailing for the Dutch. What he found was an island covered in dense forests, surrounded by waters rich with fish and beavers. The island was known as Manhattan, the island of many hills. Within a few years, Dutch settlers arrived, eager to trade for furs. They built a small fort at the southern tip of the island and named their settlement New Amsterdam. Legend says they purchased the island for goods worth 60 guilders, about $24, a transaction shrouded in myth, misunderstanding, and the collision of two worlds. New Amsterdam was a rough, lively place where Dutch, German, African, Scandinavian, and Jewish settlers mingled. At its heart was Fort Amsterdam, surrounded by muddy streets, canals, and a wooden wall built for protection, the future Wall Street. By the 1660s, New Amsterdam was still small but growing. However, it wouldn't stay Dutch for long. In 1664, English warships sailed into the harbor. The Dutch surrendered without a fight, and New Amsterdam was renamed New York. Under British rule, New York grew steadily. New streets stretched beyond the old Dutch walls. Trade thrived, bringing merchants from across the Atlantic. The city was a swirl of languages, faces, and ambitions. But not all was freedom and fortune. By the early 1700s, enslaved Africans made up a significant part of the population. They helped build the very streets and structures of early New York. By the time of the American Revolution, New York was the second largest city in the colonies, bustling, important, and divided. The city became a key battleground. In 1776, after a devastating loss at the Battle of Brooklyn, General George Washington retreated, and New York fell under British control for the remainder of the war. When the British finally left in 1783, the city lay battered. But from the ashes of war, a new spirit took root. New York was poised for something greater. The 1800s brought incredible transformation. City planners imposed order with the famous Commissioner's Plan of 1811, laying a grid over Manhattan's chaotic landscape. From Houston Street to 155th Street, numbered streets and avenues were drawn across forests, farms, and hills. Then came the Erie Canal in 1825, linking New York to the Great Lakes and the American Midwest. Goods, people, and prosperity poured into the city. New York exploded in size and influence, surpassing Philadelphia as the nation's largest city. Immigrants flooded in, Irish fleeing famine, Germans escaping revolution, Italians and Jews seeking new hope. They packed into crowded tenements, forming vibrant but struggling communities. The city responded with innovation and ambition. Central Park was carved out in the 1850s to give the city a green heart. The Brooklyn Bridge, a marvel of engineering, connected Manhattan and Brooklyn by 1883. By 1898, a monumental decision changed everything. Manhattan, Brooklyn, Queens, the Bronx, and Staten Island were consolidated into one giant city. We know today. As the 20th century dawned, New York ran out of room to spread outward, so it grew upward. Steel and elevators unlocked a new world of possibilities. Buildings like the Singer Building and Woolworth Tower reached toward the sky, creating a skyline unlike any other. Midtown Manhattan blossomed with skyscrapers. Broadway lit up with electric lights. Harlem pulsed with the rhythms of the Harlem Renaissance. Then came the 1920s, the Jazz Age, the Chrysler Building, a gleaming Art Deco spire, briefly became the tallest building in the world. But it was the Empire State Building, completed in 1931, that truly crowned New York's ambition. 102 stories of steel, towering above all others. Even as the Great Depression gripped the nation, New York kept reaching for the sky. After World War II, New York emerged stronger than ever. Veterans returned, immigrants continued to arrive, the United Nations made its home in Manhattan. But the city also faced growing pains. Robert Moses, the master builder, reshaped New York with highways, bridges, and housing projects. Neighborhoods were destroyed in the name of progress, fueling tensions and loss. The suburbs boomed as families moved out of the crowded city. Manufacturing jobs faded, poverty grew, and crime surged. The 1970s were a low point. The city teetered on the brink of bankruptcy. Fires ravaged the Bronx. Fear gripped the streets. The proud city of dreams was bruised and battered. But even then, even in its darkest hours, New York refused to give up. In the 1980s, New York began a slow, steady revival. Wall Street roared back to life. Tourism flourished, crime rates fell, neighborhoods were reborn. Artists, immigrants, and entrepreneurs breathed new life into forgotten corners of the city. In 2001, tragedy struck. The terrorist attacks on September 11th shattered the skyline and wounded the city's soul. But true to its spirit, New York rebuilt, stronger, prouder, and more united than ever. One World Trade Center now rises where the Twin Towers once stood, a beacon of resilience. Today, New York is home to over 8 million people, a vibrant mosaic of cultures, languages, and dreams. The city continues to grow, to evolve, to reach higher. From the forests of Manhattan to the steel towers of Manhattan, from Dutch traders to Wall Street tycoons, from colonial outpost to world capital, this is the story of New York, a city that never stops changing, a city that never stops dreaming. New York's story is not just about buildings or battles. It's about people, millions of them, who came from every corner of the earth to build something bigger than themselves. Here grows New York, and it will keep growing as long as there are dreamers ready to call it home.